All right, so are you ready to dive into another case?
Always up for a challenge. What do we got?
Well, today's deep dive is a tough one. It's the case of Katarzyna Zowada, and let me tell you, it's one that'll stick with you.
Oh, this is the one from Poland, right? The case with well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, no easy way to say it. This one starts with a ship, a jammed propeller, and, well, a discovery so gruesome it's almost impossible to imagine.
And it's that discovery that really sets this case apart, isn't it? We're not talking about just finding a body here,
Yeah.
but a suit meticulously crafted from human skin.
You read about these things, you hear the whispers, but to actually think about it, a human skin suit. It's just unreal. So, who was Katarzyna Zawada, and how did she end up in this horrifying situation?
Katarzyna was a young student just starting out in life, living in Krakow, Poland back in 1998. And like many young people, she was dealing with depression and had been receiving treatment for it.
Okay, so we're talking about a young woman, really just a kid, with her whole life ahead of her, already facing her own struggles.
Exactly. And then one day, after missing an appointment at her psychiatric clinic, she just vanished.
Gone.
Just gone like that. You'd think someone would have noticed,
Mhm.
right? Someone goes missing, you call the police. That's the first thing you do.
You'd think, wouldn't you? Her mother reported her missing almost immediately, but get this, the police at the time, they told her to wait 24 hours.
Hmm?
Standard procedure back then, can you believe it?
Hold on, wait a minute. You're telling me that someone goes missing, a young woman struggling with depression, and the police just wait a day before even looking into it? Seriously?
Chilling, isn't it? This case really highlights how crucial those early hours are in missing person cases. I mean, we'll never know, but you have to wonder if things had been different. If they had acted sooner, could this all have been prevented?
That's what's so frustrating. We're talking about 1998, not the Dark Ages, and they're dismissing a missing persons report. It just makes your blood boil. Okay, so what happened next? They waited 24 hours. I assume they finally started looking into it. Well, they eventually had a suspect, a man named Vladimir W. He was known to the police already, actually, for disturbingly similar crime against his own father. But then he disappeared too.
Wait, so let me get this straight. A young woman disappears, the police drag their feet, a potential suspect with a chillingly similar crime vanishes into thin air, and then, to top it all off, we get the human skin suit.
And we have to remember, the suit wasn't all. They found a right leg in the river a few days later, but the rest of Katarzyna was never recovered.
This is horrific. Did they learn anything from the suit itself? I mean, what could that even tell them?
Well, for one thing, a human skin suit is incredibly rare. It's not something you see every day, even in criminal cases. And it speaks to a level of premeditation and honestly a very specific and very disturbing psychological profile.
Okay, that's a whole other level of messed up. So they find this suit, this message of hate and violence, and then nothing. What happened next?
Well, what happened next was nothing for a very long time.
You're kidding.
It's true. This case, as horrific and as bizarre as it went cold for nearly 2 decades. Can you imagine that?
19 years. Seriously. That poor family left in limbo for all that time, the not knowing.
It's a long time to live with that kind of uncertainty, you're right? Cold cases, they're incredibly difficult to crack. Sometimes all it takes is a new lead, a fresh set of eyes on the case, or in this case.
The anonymous letter, right?
Exactly. In 2017, almost 2 decades after Katarzyna disappeared, an anonymous letter landed on the desk of the Krakow police out of nowhere. And that letter, it pointed them directly to a man named Robert Jenseski.
Okay, anonymous letters, that's classic true crime stuff right there. People talk, word gets around.
It happens more often than you might think. Sometimes it's a guilty conscience. Sometimes it's someone close to the perpetrator, someone who can't stay silent any longer. And in this case, whoever sent that letter, they knew something. They blew the case wide open.
So who was this Jencheski? Was he connected to Katarzyna in some way? What's the link?
Well, we know he had worked at the Krakow Institute of Zoology, same city. But here's where it gets really strange. The very same day that Katarzyna disappeared, this Jenjevsky guy, he was fired from his job at the Institute.
Okay. Fired. What did he steal office supplies or something? What does that have to do with anything?
He was fired for killing all the rabbits at the Institute.
What? Okay, that's not your typical HR violation. This is just disturbing. I mean, we've all heard the stories about people who hurt animals going on to do terrible things to people, but this is different.
It's definitely a cause for concern. There's no doubt about that. Like you said, it suggests a capacity for violence, for a kind of cruelty that goes beyond what most people can even comprehend.
And on top of that, he was trained in martial arts, he'd been seen at Katarzyna's grave on multiple occasions, and he had a history of harassing women. I mean, come on, this isn't just a coincidence.
It's a lot of circumstantial evidence, we'll give you that. But like we said, anonymous letters, they often come from someone close to the situation, someone who's seen things, heard things. Maybe this tipster, they knew about those details and knew how disturbing they were.
It makes you wonder what else this guy was capable of. So what did the police do with this new information? Did they bring him in for questioning?
They did. They brought him in and they searched his apartment. And, well, remember how we talked about those whispers you hear? The things that make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up?
Oh man, there's more. This is like something out of a nightmare. What did they find?
They found blood in his bathroom.
Okay, so that's pretty damning, right? You find blood in a suspect's bathroom in a case like this. It's pretty clear cut, isn't it? What happened next? Did this finally give them what they needed to make an arrest?
Well, you would think, wouldn't you? I mean, blood evidence, especially in a case this old, that feels like a smoking gun. You'd think so, right? But it's not always that simple. See, even with all the advancements we've made in forensic science, things can get really complicated. Our expert mentioned something called degradation.
Degradation. What's that?
It's basically what happens to biological samples over time. They break down. And this degradation, it can be accelerated in certain environments. Like, you guessed it, a bathroom.
So the blood, it was too degraded to get a usable DNA sample.
That's the thing with cold cases. You're not just fighting time, you're fighting the elements. You're fighting everything that's happened in between. And in this case, even if the blood was Katarzyna's, after 19 years in that bathroom, who knows what kind of condition it was in.
So they couldn't definitively link it back to her. Man, this is frustrating. They have this guy, they have this mountain of circumstantial evidence, but no concrete proof. So what happened then? What did the police do?
Well, that's where the information gets even more limited. We don't know for sure if Jonchevsky was ever officially charged with Katarzyna's murder. It seems the trial, if it even happened, was kept very quiet, very low profile.
Hold on, are you serious? So we might never know what really happened.
We're left with more questions than answers. It's a case that really highlights the complexities of the justice system, the limitations of evidence, especially in cold cases.
And what about Katarzyna's family? Her mother, who was basically ignored when she first reported her missing, did she ever get any answers? Any closure?
That we don't know. And that's the truly tragic part of cases like this the family is left behind, grappling with the unknown, with the what-ifs. It's a heavy weight to carry.
This whole deep dive has been an emotional roller coaster. We started with this gruesome discovery, the human skin suit, and it just kept getting more complicated, more unsettling. It's really stuck with me.
It's a reminder that reality is often stranger and sadly much darker than anything we could dream up. And that even with our advancements in forensic science and criminal profiling, some mysteries may never be fully solved.
And it's a stark reminder of how important it is to take missing person cases seriously from the very beginning. Those first 24 hours, they can make all the difference.
Absolutely, every second counts.
Well, on that note, I want to thank you for joining me on this deep dive. And to you, our listeners, if this case has piqued your interest, keep digging. Read about Katarzyna. Delve into the world of cold cases, of forensic science. Keep asking the tough questions. And until next time, as always, thanks for diving deep with us.